Welcome back to West Texas View.
Welcome back to the West Texas View. I'm Johnny Lou Avery, and this is Colonel James Avery, who is the retired from 30 years in the military. And just before the break, he was starting to talk about how important it is to enlarge your experience, not just take what's given to you, but seek opportunities. And so one of the things that he thought is, how can I challenge myself? And he said, whoa, I've heard about Green Berets, and I've heard about Rangers, and I've also heard about how hard it is. And so I think that that's something I'd like to do. So now tell that story about that.
That was challenging. You've got to challenge yourself. But whenever I was in high school, right out of high school, of course, Vietnam was going hot and heavy. Barry Sadler came up with a song called The Ballad of the Green Beret. Well, I heard that, and I thought, golly, that sounds really neat and challenging. I said, what is that? And someone said, well, you know, that's where you go to this tough training and all. I said, well, I just think I'll try
Eat grasshoppers, and you're not giving any.
So I did that. I'm a paratrooper, and I've jumped out of a lot of airplanes, but went through the training, and I realized you've got to challenge yourself. It's easy to sit back and say, well, just be the average old adult or student, but you've got to commit yourself and challenge yourself to succeed. And going through those training, I learned a lot about myself. In high school, I was a mediocre student, a mediocre grades, mediocre athlete, but didn't challenge myself. Now then that I've succeeded in that, I know it's hard, I know it's challenging, I feel like I can do anything, and I don't take defeat. And I've had some tough times. We all have failures, and I've failed at several things, but it's how you handle these failures that succeed in life. You sit back and have a disappointment, and then you step forward, put on your big boy pants and move on, because that's what life is, and that life is a journey.
And have the confidence to try those things that you
just
might fail
can't be
in.
defeated and say, well, I think I'm beat down, I'm going to commit suicide, things going bad for me. And that's what the leadership skills has taught me. And that's what I try to relate to the high school students here. Be a leader. Go and challenge yourself to go to challenging the tough things.
And one of the things, though, that I remember, because you had related some of these stories about going through the training that was required for you to get the designation as a Green Beret or as a Ranger. And I understand that Ranger was more strenuous.
That was the most challenging thing, because it was no sleep and no food.
You talked about how many washed out. And
yes.
How that when you finally came to that was another thing that gave you confidence.
That was probably a turning point in my life, was Ranger School, which is only 8 weeks and 2 days. But we started a class of about 200. There's no rank. We had some Marines in our class with us, some active and some reservists and some guardsmen. We had about a 60% washout rate that did not graduate, a combination of they quit the first day. And all of our services have their elite. And you've seen those, the Navy SEALs, and the Army, the Marine Force Recon, the Air Force Pararescue. Those are the most challenging things that they have. And they all have a high washout rate, because people just don't accept difficult things. But when I graduated from Ranger School, I felt I can do anything now. I can take any punishment, any hardship, and succeed.
Because it was really life or death.
Well, it was continuous, 24 hours a day. You slept when you could, and you had one meal a day. And there's been hundreds of Rangers go through the school. I was just one of thousands that's done that. But it made me realize there's more things to life than just sitting back and doing the minimums or nothing. And it developed my leadership skills, I think, and my self-confidence really boosted then. I came back and said, hey, I am a real person. I can do anything I decide that I would like to do. So I've enjoyed that, and I relay that whenever I teach school as a substitute teacher and in the public schools.
Well, one of the things I want to bring out real quickly is you had a little brother that came up behind you, and so he kind of followed in his big brother's footsteps. He wanted to do everything you did, so
Bobby.
he joined, and then he became a paratrooper because his big brother.
In fact, he and I went through jump school together, and we pinned each other's wings on each other. And he also went to Ranger School, and I pinned his Ranger tab on it because I was an instructor then at Fort Benning teaching.
But you opened a lot of doors for him.
For him.
Because you explained what was going to happen, and it made it easier when you know what's going to happen.
Yes, it really does. And I
so
found
you wish you had
a
had
lot
a
of things
mentor.
I did was simply by accident, because no one really told me, sit beside and said, listen, you can do this, and this. I just blindly went into it. But I had some great support. I've got a wonderful wife. At that time, really, really encouraged me. She knew that I loved the military. And she said, well, why don't you do it? At this time, I was in the National Guard. Had a civilian job, but my focus was on National Guard military. And I went off to all these schools, and Ranger School and Jump School and different training schools. She said, well, you like it so much, why don't you just go full-time? And that's what I did. And then I volunteered and went full-time military. She was a college student at the time and sacrificed a lot for me in my career. Matter of fact, I can look at her, and she's the reason I probably stayed in school and ultimately graduated from college because she encouraged me to do it at night. She supported me at night. So a military person's spouse plays a key role, an absolutely positive role. And
but she went on. She was able to
she's
go
got
on
her
and get
career
her
too.
degree.
Oh, yeah, she went ahead and graduated and
as
became a school teacher. And my career fostered and helped her career as well. Because in the military, we moved about every 2 years, every 3 years for sure. And my career, we've moved, I think, right at 25 different times. And she was a school teacher. So every time we would move, she had to go apply for a new teaching job. So
and
she
a new
saw
set of lesson plans,
and then also take that state's history. You know, to be a teacher in any state, you got to take that state's history. So she took about 5 different states' history, but she'd go to teaching school, to school wherever we lived, and that made her a better teacher. Well, along came, we had a daughter, and she traveled along with us. So the travel was an education for my daughter as well as for the 3 of us. But she'd finally go back to when I retired. She was teaching in Mississippi, and the teachers would sit around and say, "Gosh, what a hard life this is! What a hard school! What a bad principal! What a hum this!" And she'd say, "Listen, I've been around the world and I've taught in about 20 different schools. You don't know what difficult and challenging is until you're in the classroom. All of a sudden, you've got a bomb threat and you've got to evacuate the school." So it made her a much better teacher.
and a better colleague.
It penalized her for a career, you know, because of retirement-wise. You know, she doesn't have a 30-year state retirement like some teachers do. But she's loved the travel as well. Our sweet little daughter, Azure D, she's now 34, getting her PhD in physics. But it's amazing now then when we talk how much she's picked up from the military. Just lingo. You know, the military has their own acronyms and their own lingo like most professions do. But when we talk on the telephone, you know, we always have a great conversation. But at the end, rather than saying goodbye, we say out here. And that's what we've always done in the military. That ends the conversation in the military. We're out here. And so she always says, out here.
So here she is in Denver, Colorado. Instead of saying goodbye, Dad, she says out here.
Out here. And she's picks up all the military lingo that I didn't realize that she was listening to, the phonetic alphabet, the terminology that we've used. And she used that in her everyday life. So it's really funny.
We're going to have to take a break. We're going to be back in just a minute and continue this conversation. Isn't this interesting to hear from a person who's been there and done that? We'll see you in just a minute.
Stay tuned. West Texas View will be right back.